Are you a long course triathlete, juggling career, family, and social life, but still chasing performance? Still showing up early, grinding out sessions, and chasing PRs? Then this is your podcast. I'm John Mayfield, triathlon coach and athlete, and I've coached hundreds of athletes just like you. Busy professionals with big goals and limited time and no interest in wasting either. Welcome to Tribe Triathlon, your go-to show for everything you need to train smarter, race faster, and fall even more in love with the sport of triathlon. Whether you're self-coached and looking for trusted information, or you've got a coach and just looking for an edge, this show is for you. Every Tuesday, I'll bring you clear, actionable items to help you train more efficiently and race better, to get more out of every training block, every recovery session, and every race. From swimming, cycling, and running to recovery hacks, mental prep to race day execution, you'll leave every episode with something you can use immediately in your next training session or race. There are a lot of triathlon podcasts out there, but this one, it's built on real coaching experience, real results, and a real passion for helping athletes like you reach your potential. So if you're ready to train smarter, race faster, and love the process, hit subscribe, and I'll see you every Tuesday.
Hey guys, we have got a good one today. It's going to be a fun one. So sometimes get a little nerdy, kind of into the weeds, a little technical on certain things like technique and science of hydration and all those kinds of things. Today is not going to be one of those days. So as we are here early in the year 2026, we focus a lot on Ironman distance racing. So I wanted to just give a high-level overview of the U.S. North American Ironman courses so that you can decide which events that you want to do either this year or next, or if you're already registered for one of these events, maybe it'll give you just a little bit of information. Now, these are very high-level views of the courses, whereas I have several in-depth, really into the weeds videos on the Tribe YouTube channel. So if you are registered for one of these, go and check out the YouTube channel. There's a lot of videos on there, again, that are really going to be more specific and really get into the actual course, tips specific to those courses. So check those out. But again, today, just a kind of high level. And I'll say too, these are very anecdotal. These are subjective. These are my assessments of some of the things on the course. And I would love to know if you agree with these or not. So I have been to every U.S. Ironman event, and so I have a little bit of experience. I haven't raced them all, but I have been to all of them with the exception of Jacksonville. I've been to Jacksonville before, but obviously none of us have been to the race itself, but I am looking forward to changing that coming up. So diving in today, what is your favorite Ironman? I will say, if I had to choose a North American race, it would probably be Ironman Florida. I've done it 4 times myself. It is my PR. I love the city. I love the vibe that is there during race week. The swim is absolutely amazing. In fact, the picture here is from Panama City Beach out there. Amazing venue and just a great overall race. So it was my first Ironman back in 2011. So it holds some special memories for me. I've raced with a great group of friends kind of each time. I've done it 4 times. Kind of with a different group of friends every time, so that's been really special. So part of it is the race, the course, my PR, my first Ironman, but a lot of it is also the people that I was privileged enough to share that experience with. In fact, my very first Ironman, I was stride for stride with one of my lifelong good friends, Kyle. He and I crossed the finish line together, so that was not planned, but it just worked out that way. So that was super cool. So let me know, what is your favorite Ironman? And then part 2, do you agree with today's assessment? So I really look forward to hearing those that disagree. And so bring your facts, back it up, and I'll try to do the same here. But again, today's going to be a fun one as we go over the 2026 North American Ironman events. So we get things kicked off. First event of the year back in my hometown with Ironman Texas. It is the North American Championship and has been for a number of years. As I mentioned, I have been to all of these venues. In fact, I have been to every Ironman Texas. I've been to every Ironman in Texas. So I've been to all the Ironman Texas, and then I believe there were 2 Ironman Wacos that I was there for those as well. So this dates back to 2011 when it debuted. And again, I have been there every year. Definitely one up or more than one upping me. There are still a few people who have, they call them streakers. They have done every one of these events. I know Nancy Goodnight is one of those. I believe she is the only female left. I think there's only 2 or 3 men left. So good luck to all those people continuing their streak coming up here on April 18th. So again, first event of the year. Logistics, I give Ironman Texas a 10. It is just north of Houston, so there's an airport readily available with easy transportation. In fact, you fly into Bush Airport, you basically take the bike course up to the Woodlands, where you will find tons of hotels, restaurants, hotels of all different price points. So if you want to spend a whole lot, you can stay in a really nice hotel that is right by the finish line. But fortunately, you can spend a whole lot less and be still very, very close to the venue. It is it's not a split transition, but it is a split between the transition and the finish line. The finish line is near the Ironman Village. So there are 2 different places that you have to go during race week, but they're very close together. So give logistics a 10. It's an easy one to get around. Weather, I'm going to give a 4. So April in Texas is a crapshoot. We have no idea what it's going to be. Usually, it's starting to get hot and humid. So even those of us that train in Texas, we did all our training through cold months as well. But then all of a sudden, when race week shows up for Ironman Texas, it's like hot for the first time. So not a whole lot of opportunity for heat acclimation. And being that it is in the greater Houston area, you can count on it being humid. Ironman Texas is notorious for being the only race that has ever been paused for weather. So several years back, I believe it was 2016, basically this front moved through. It went from being a pretty warm day to this front coming through, and just in a matter of minutes went from sunny to an absolute deluge of pouring rain, and then it started to hail, and then it started to flood, all within a few minutes. So in the name of safety, they actually paused the race, which is really hard when you have people spread out over an 8-mile run course. But they did do that, and then once the storm passed relatively quickly, they did actually resume the race. So it's Texas, it's April. We have no idea what the weather's going to be, but in recollection, like I said, been to all of them. I don't ever recall like a beautiful bluebird day that was just great. So I gave the weather a 4. Beginner friendly, I give it an 8. Kind of a combination of the course itself, the logistics, those kinds of things. So if this is your first Ironman, you're going to be good there. PR potential, I give it a 6. It is not necessarily known as a real fast course. It can be fast. The pros obviously do it very quickly, and there are those that race quickly on the course, but it is not one of the faster ones. So maybe not if you're seeking a PR. There are some better courses that definitely are faster and easier to set you up for a PR. Now, if you are trying to get a Kona slot, this actually is a great event to try that at. Because it is the North American Championship, it includes 75 Kona slots, which is the most of all these events in the U.S. that we're going to be discussing. So a little bit better odds of getting a Kona slot there. As we discussed a couple weeks ago, when we were discussing the fastest and slowest of 2025, Ironman Texas overall was the 4th slowest of 2025. So that kind of plays into that PR potential and all that. But I do think there are some factors that kind of play into that. All in all, it's still a great race. So the swim, I give it a 2. The water temperature is always borderline. It is right around that wetsuit legal cutoff, 76 degrees. There are years where it's wetsuit legal. This past year, it was wetsuit legal well below the cutoff. It was like 70, 72 going into the race day. Like I think Friday's temperature was something like 77 72, 73. There was actually rain the night before, and then somehow all of a sudden on race day, it was up over 76.1. So kind of a curveball there. And again, it's kind of a crapshoot as to whether it's going to be wetsuit legal or wetsuit optional. Visibility, there is none. So this venue is it's largely man-made, or at least kind of man adjusted, you could say. A lot of engineering went into this, so it's a mud bottom body of water, as a lot are in this area of Texas. So the water is going to be murky, so there is no visibility. It is fresh water, and I certainly put that into quotes. Basically, it's not salt water, and that's probably the only thing fresh about it. There are rumors of bad stuff being in the water. So I always say, to quote Dave Matthews, don't drink the water. In fact, that's always one of the tips I give for this event. In fact, when I've done this event, I've even taken some activated charcoal prior to the swim, just in case any of that bad stuff ends up in my stomach. But years ago, there was actually an instance where it's kind of funny. They tested the water in the canal, and it tested for something. I'm not exactly sure if it was bacteria or what, but basically they said that the canal was not safe to swim in, but the lake that you swim in first, that was okay. So they adjusted the transitions, and they had the swim just in the lake and did not go into the canal. It's all the same body of water, so I'm not exactly sure how they pulled that off, but good for them, and hopefully no one got too sick from that. But I will say it's some pretty funky water. Now that we no longer have Ironman Arizona, I will say hands down this is the worst water on the Ironman circuit. As mentioned, it is a lake to canal, so it's kind of cool in that you start out, you do an out and back in a lake, and then you turn into the canal here, and it's a catch-22. I will say it's kind of cool. As you can see here, lots of spectator support as you're turning to breathe. You can see people. Maybe your support crew can find you and kind of pace you along. That's great, but it does get very crowded. As mentioned before, there's also a whole lot of construction around here. This is obviously a very man-made body of water. With all that construction, there's all sorts of stuff that has ended up down in the canal. So they'll tell you, don't stand up, because there's construction, rebar, concrete, who knows what else down there at the bottom. So again, it's kind of cool in theory, but if you're there, not the best. And it did rank as the third slowest swim in 2025. So again, it was not wetsuit legal, so that would have slowed it down a little bit. I swam it, and it actually was my slowest Ironman swim ever, so I can concur with that. And it gives me a little bit of peace knowing that it actually was slow for everybody else. Bike score, I give a 5. It is completely flat, other than there are some overpasses that you'll go through. So that's the only elevation gain that you're going to get. So you're going over these overpasses several times. It is 80 miles on a toll road. So basically, your first 20 miles is going from downtown Woodlands, and you're getting out to what is known as the Hardy Toll Road. It is a north-south toll road. So once you're there, it's 20 miles dead south, you turn around, come back up, and then you do that again. So it's basically 4 20-mile segments, due south and then due north. So kind of the catch-22 of that is it's known to be windy, but generally it's out of the south because that's where the coast is. So it's usually a headwind as you head south, but as we know about that reciprocation, a headwind becomes a tailwind. So, and it is kind of nice because that closing section is actually a tailwind, and then it's a short 12 miles back up to transition. Our run, I give it 10, and I will say this is definitely the highlight of Ironman Texas. I will say the pre-race is fantastic at Ironman Texas, and then the run is really what makes it attractive. It is pancake flat. There is not a single bit of elevation out here. Absolutely great crowd support. And I will say, of all the Ironman venues, Ironman Texas probably has arguably the best crowd support out on the run. It is 3 loops, which I like. So they're around 8 miles each. For me, it makes it more manageable. I can better manage my nutrition, my pacing, all that kind of stuff. On that first loop, you learn where those aid stations are. You learn the sections you like, you don't like. So on those next 2, you know what to be prepared for. And then something else that's kind of cool is towards the end of that first loop, you'll see a sign that says first loop, second loop, and then third loop to the finish. So it's kind of cool to say in a little bit, I'm not going to be going straight here. I'm going to be making that turn towards the finish. And then when you make that turn towards the finish, it's amazing. So couple highlights on the run course are Hippie Hollow. That is a group that I believe has been out there from the very beginning. They're right there on the canal. They bang on trash cans and they keep people going. It is a party until the last person comes through. First runner to the last. They're out there supporting. So props to those guys. And I will say the canal goes from being a low light of the swim to a highlight of the run. Because again, this is where the hotels, the restaurants, all that are. So the vast majority of the crowd support is there along the canal. So it's a really cool stretch of the course. All that said, it was the second slowest run in 2025. So there's that. All right, moving on to race number 2, Ironman Jacksonville, May 16th. Now, as I said, I have not been to this race, obviously, but I'm vaguely familiar with Jacksonville. So these are just some kind of estimates, maybe educated guesses on these. So logistics, I give it a 9. That is because, again, kind of like Ironman Texas, it is in a established area, so there's going to be easy access to the airports, rental cars, hotels, restaurants, all that kind of stuff is going to be readily available to it. So logistics should be pretty good. Weather, I'm going to give it a 4, kind of for those same reasons as Ironman Texas. It's about a month later. So once we get into mid-May in Florida, it's hot. It's humid. It's Florida. It's hot and humid pretty much all year. So especially folks coming from north, haven't had that much time to acclimate to the heat. And with storms and all that, who knows what the weather is going to be mid-May in Jacksonville. Beginner friendly, give it an 8. Again, just for the logistics, the course, all those kinds of things. I think it will be both beginner friendly and a PR potential just based on the course itself. So I gave it an 8 for the PR potential. It has 40 Kona slots available. And as mentioned, this is the inaugural event. The swim, I'm giving it an 8. The water temperature is expected to be in the mid-60s, so it will be wetsuit legal. It is brackish water, so it is kind of inland from the coast, so it's not completely salt water, but I do believe it will be somewhat salty, so brackish. It is a point-to-point, and it is with the current and with the tide, so this is going to be a fast one. I think this potentially could even rival Chattanooga and California for the fastest swim, so we'll see how that shakes out next year. Bike, give it a 5, simply because it is going to be pancake flat. It is 2 loops, and because it is so close to the coast, I would expect a decent amount of wind. Gave it a 5 just because there's probably not a whole lot to it. Just looking at the maps, it's one of those where you can probably have a pretty fast split, but you're probably going to get a little bored out there as well. Not the case, hopefully, on the run. Give the run a 9. It does have some rolling hills, so kind of breaking it up, keeping it interesting, having to vary your pace, your intensity a little bit. It is 3 loops, which, again, as I mentioned before, I like that from the standpoint of seeing your family, your friends, your support, knowing all about the course, learning those things on the first loop. And it claims to go through 5 unique boroughs. So Jacksonville isn't New York City, but and I'm not even familiar with what these boroughs are, but I'm assuming it's something like that. I know in New York you have very distinct neighborhoods between those boroughs. So I'm hoping and assuming that that's going to be comparable for Jacksonville, where as you go around this course, you'll get to see different things, and that really helps pass the time, pass the miles, keep you engaged and interested. All right, so we go from racing in Jacksonville in May, big break all the way to July 19th, where we go on to Ironman Lake Placid. Logistics here, I give it a 2. The reason for that is this city, I don't know how Lake Placid has hosted 2 Winter Olympics. There's not much there. It's in the middle of nowhere. Now, granted, it is gorgeous. It is a beautiful part of the country, but regardless of where you are, the chances are you're going to be traveling quite a bit. There's not an airport particularly close. You're driving a couple hours, most likely from the nearest airport. Hotels, race week, I've been told this is actually their biggest event of the year, so you're going to pay for it. Most of the hotels are, I would say, like 2-star hotels, but you're going to be paying like 4-star prices for them. Some of them have minimums of like a 3 or 4 night minimum, and they're charging $400 to $500 a night. When literally earlier in the week they're charging like $125 or something like that. So they're not super nice hotels. They're not bad, but they're not. Some of them are older, but you're definitely going to pay for them. And then there's not even like a great like plan B, because Lake Placid is so isolated. It's not like you can just go 5 miles over to the next town and get a cheap hotel. There's really not much. Same thing with like your rentals, your Airbnb, Verbos, not a ton of those. And they know this too. In fact, I was looking this past year, there was literally a lean-to that was basically just logs over a concrete base. It had a shower that was basically a hose out on the side. And man, I want to say they were charging like $200 a night for that. So just kind of laughed at that one. But if you are racing Lake Placid, make your hotel reservations as soon as possible, because the good ones obviously do go quick. Weather, I'm going to give it a 5. Kind of a catch-22 here. This past year, it was absolutely beautiful. It was gorgeous. Again, at the time I was living in Texas, so I was very pleased to get out of Texas in July, and it was gorgeous all week. We were there doing sweat testing with Sweat Lab, and those were great days out there at the venue. Unfortunately, it changed on race day. So race day turned into pretty much a rain event, especially for the bike course, and this bike course is not one you really want to be taking on in the rain. That has happened a couple times. In fact, once there was a storm that rolled in during the swim, and they were actually pulling people out of the lake and having them walk back around the lake to transition to continue on the race that way. But the day or two after the race, this kind of blew my mind as a Texan. We woke up and it was like 40 degrees. So I hadn't experienced 40 degrees since like February. So I'm not used to that in mid-July. So weather is kind of a bit of an unknown. It can be hot, it can be cold, it can be rainy. You never really know. Beginner friendly, I give it a 4. Just because of the combination of the logistics as well as the course. Maybe not the best if you're taking on your first Ironman. Don't want to discourage you from doing it if it is, but I will say it's going to be a little bit more difficult for those first timers. PR potential, I give it a 2. This is not a particularly fast course. It is challenging, but it is not unfairly difficult, but it's not super fast. So if you're looking for a PR course, maybe select something else. If you're looking for a beautiful course that is going to be a challenge, it's going to be a ton of fun, this is definitely the one for you. 55 Kona slots available for Lake Placid. Swim, I give it a 10. This swim is fantastic. As you can see, it is a beautiful lake right there. It is actually not Lake Placid. Lake Placid is actually kind of the next lake over. This is called Mirror Lake. And that just speaks to the water clarity, quality, all that. So kind of the opposite of Ironman Texas. Water temperature is borderline. It's one of those that goes back and forth, and you never really know what that water temperature is going to be until race morning. Sometimes it's above, sometimes it's below. So if you're dead set on a wetsuit swim, take that into consideration. Visibility, very high. Crystal clear water, again, really nice. It's fresh water. It's 2 loops out and back. And something that is really unique to the swim here in Lake Placid is the fact that there is actually a yellow cable that the buoys are attached to. So you don't even necessarily need to sight. So you can either just follow that cable underwater or follow the people that are following the cable, because obviously the cable line does get a bit congested, but you can just be a little bit over to the side. Make sure they're following that cable nice and straight. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a fast swim, simply because you are not going to have to worry about swimming off course as much, and it's going to be you're not going to have those extra yards from that. Bike, I give a 7. It's definitely a beauty and a beast. So it is hilly. It is downhill out, uphill back, 2 loops. So you're going to do this twice. And I will say this is the prettiest bike course on the Ironman circuit. The picture here is not necessarily a unique section of the course. Pretty much the whole course looks like this. So if you are in for a entertaining course in the natural beauty, Ironman Lake Placid is second to none. That said, it was the 5th slowest bike in 2025. As mentioned, this past year, it was rainy. So I think that contributed to it. But as mentioned, it is not a particularly fast course. There is a very large descent. I believe it's about 10 to 15 miles in. It's along Keene Road, so it's known as the Keene Descent. You are losing a very large amount of elevation over a relatively short period. And I'll say that was probably the most dicey section during that rain, because you're going to be going quite fast downhill. As you're coming back up, there's a section called the 3 Bears. It's 3 climbs. They're not horrible. I think the fact that they're called the 3 Bears and they have a name and all that probably is a little bit more intimidating than they should be. But that being said, if you are going to take on Ironman Lake Placid, make sure that you have a decent amount of bike handling skills, especially to handle that descent, because you are going to be getting into some fast speeds as you head down that descent. The run, I give a 6. It is a hilly run. It's kind of a rollers, and there are some climbs in there, but it is a great crowd support race. It is 3 loops as well. So far we're 3 for 3 on the 3 loop courses, and kind of opposite of the bike course, it is downhill out. No, it's the same as the bike course, downhill out and uphill back. Super cool. Finish line, as we saw in that first picture, transition is inside of the Olympic speed skating rink, and the finish line is actually on the Olympic speed skating rink. So not only are you taking on Ironman, you're experiencing a bit of Olympic history. And kind of fun fact, the building right next door was where the miracle happened, where the U.S. hockey team won gold when they were not expected to. So just a neat venue, neat town with a lot of stuff going on there. So great race in Lake Placid. Next, we go north of the border to Ironman Ottawa. So 2025 was the first time to have the event there. It is going to be held on August 2nd. Logistics, I give it a 6. One, for those of us in the U.S., it is international travel. I will say I actually drove across the border, and it really wasn't that much of it was not a big deal at all. In fact, I had my dog with me, but we got across the border with very little interaction with the border, so not a big deal. And then it is, again, in a very urban area. Ottawa is the capital, so lots of resources there, lots of hotels and all that. But you are dealing with a different currency, so there's some logistical issues there. So that's why I gave it a 6 on the logistical side. Weather, I gave a 7. So pretty far north, so not as hot as down in the U.S. In early August, but it still gets warm. But it is a little bit cooler than say the South or anything this time of year. Beginner friendly, also gave it a 7, just for some of those same reasons with the logistics. The Ironman Village is in a different location than the transition area, so there are a couple different spots to go. PR potential, also gave it a 7. It is I would say a pretty fast course, but not necessarily the fastest. And there are 40 Kona slots available at Ironman Ottawa. Swim course, I give it an 8. Water temperature is in the low 70s, so probably going to be wetsuit legal. Visibility is good. It is fresh water, and this is one of those, there's a couple venues that are kind of like this. It is technically in a river, but it is actually a very large, wide section of the river, so it feels kind of more like I would say like a bay. So it's not a river like Chattanooga or California. It's definitely a much wider, larger area, and it is a 1-loop swim. Bike, I give a 7. It is a rolling course, so definitely going to keep you interested. You'll be in air position, you'll be up, you'll be down kind of a bit. It is mostly along that same river that the swim venue is on, so you're staying largely in that urban area around the capital. It is 2 3/4 loops. So as you can imagine, you go out, you come back, and then the other one you only come back about 3/4 of the way. So if that's a good thing for you, again, I like those loops, but if you feel like you're going in circles, may not be. Like, a great thing about this is this course is completely closed to traffic, so you're not going to have to worry about that. Run, I give an 8. It is flat-ish, so I wouldn't necessarily call this a rolling or hilly course, but there are some ups and downs to it. It is completely urban. You're right there in the middle of downtown Ottawa, which is super cool because Ottawa is the capital. You run right by the Capitol building and some of the courts and all these different government buildings. So I would say it's kind of almost the equivalent of running on the National Mall in DC. So a little bit different, or actually a lot different architecture. It's really cool. Kind of almost has like an old Europe feel to it. So really neat. We have our first 2-loop course. So all those others were 3 loops. This one is 2. And it also ranked as the 5th slowest run of 2025. I think that probably has to do with some of the, it being a new event, a lot of new athletes, a lot of first timers. So I think that contributed to it. I don't think it's necessarily a slow run course. I think just the participants were a little bit on the slower side. Moving on to Ironman Wisconsin. So this one is September 13th. Logistics, I give it an 8. So you have all those things nearby. It's drivable. There's an airport that is easy in access to, hotels, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. Now, one thing I will say is a lot of the hotels are further out. They're about a 20-minute drive away, so not quite as convenient. There are some right there around the capital, but most of the hotels are a little bit further out, but not a big deal. Weather, I give it a 9. So still way up north into September. You're getting into some really nice, cool weather, dry weather. Obviously, we can't necessarily predict the rain, but this year I was up there again sweat testing, and I will say we were cold. In the days leading into the race, we were in a shaded area, and the wind did kind of funnel through there. But the temperatures were, I want to say, they were in the low 60s, something like that in the afternoon, and it stayed like that throughout the week. So if you're trying to avoid the heat, looking for a little cooler race, this is a great option. Beginner friendly, I give it a 6, and that is primarily because of the course. It is a little bit more challenging of a course, and for those same reasons, I give it a 6 on the PR potential. So for most people, this is not going to be a PR, but again, it is a really fun course. It is a challenging course, so definitely don't want to keep you from participating in this. Kind of a unique, neat thing about Ironman Wisconsin is the day before is the 70.3. So kind of unique in that you have the 70.3 on Saturday, full on Sunday. That is currently the only event in the U.S. that has the half and full on the same weekend. So some logistical challenges there, but they've been doing it for a long time, and they do a great job of handling all of that. Now, Wisconsin is actually going to be qualifying for next year's Kona, but last year they had 40 slots for the 2026 Ironman World Championship. So just an assumption that there will be a similar amount of slots this year. Swim, I give an 8. It is a great swim. Water temperatures are in the low 70s, so pretty predictably to be wetsuit legal. And not a whole lot of issue there. Visibility is good. It's a large lake. It is fresh water, and it is 2 loops. So lots of good options there on the swim. Bike, I give a 7. It is rolling to hilly. I will say it is certainly not a flat course, but it's not. I will say it's often maybe over overestimated on how much elevation there is. I think the overall elevation can be a bit deceiving. It is a rolling course. There are some climbs, but it is not an overly difficult course. It is what I refer to as a two-loop lollipop. So effectively what that means is you're going to leave transition, ride out to a section on the course. You'll do 2 loops there and then ride back. So two-loop lollipop. And something that's really cool and quite unique about this course is you have your helix start and finish. So as that first picture showed, your transition is actually up on the roof of the convention center where the village and registration and all that is. So there's actually a spiral helix like you would drive on in a parking garage. So as you are leaving T1, you are descending down. It is after the mountain line, so you actually are riding down that spiral helix. And then same thing, as you're coming into T2, you will ride back up. So a little bit of a challenge there. Make sure you save a little bit of your legs, literally for that last, eighth of a mile or whatever it is from the base back up to the roof of that of the parking garage. And then your run starts the same way, back down the helix. So it gives you a nice little start as you head out onto the run course, which I give a 7. Kind of similar. It is flat-ish with some rollers. So it's definitely not flat the entire way, but the entire time isn't constant up and down. But it's a good fair course so far as that goes. I would say it's quite entertaining in that you get to see a whole bunch of different things and experience a couple. You're going to start there in the capital area. You go through downtown and then out to the Wisconsin Stadium, which is, I would say, a highlight. You actually run through the stadium and then back around to the lakeshore. So lots of different things to see as you're it's an out and back. So you're going to actually see those things 4 times because it is a 2-loop course, and then you'll finish up on the very iconic Capitol finish. So it's right there in the shadow of the state capitol. So it's a really neat finish line. Next, we have Ironman Maryland on September 19th. Logistics, I give this one a 1. It is a great race, but it is logistically challenging to take on. The nearest airports are DC or Baltimore, which leaves about a 2-hour drive from both of those airports to Cambridge, where the race is held. Once you get there, kind of like Lake Placid, maybe even worse than Lake Placid, there are not a whole lot of hotels. One of the hotels is a super high-end Hyatt that is $500 plus per night. But the other hotels in the area, those limited services, they've caught on as well. They sell out very quickly, and they do raise their prices for race week. One thing that is also kind of odd about Ironman Maryland and unique, and not necessarily in a good way, some of the locals are very, very welcoming. They love the race. They turn out, support it. You'll see signs in the yard, that sort of thing. But something I haven't seen anywhere else is like some of the restaurants will actually have signs posted and say, Ironman athletes not welcome. So those businesses don't want your money. So I would say go find some of the ones that do. Obviously, they got some great seafood, crab, all that. Participants, finishers of Ironman Maryland are known as crabbies because of the prevalence of the crab fishing in the area. So make sure that your pre or post meal includes some crab cakes or something like that. Camping is available, so that is one way you can kind of circumvent the lack of hotel availability. The YMCA is probably the largest opportunity for camping. They have a large field that is available for both tent camping, and if you have like RV, motorhome, that kind of thing, you can use that as well. And then you have full access to the YMCA, so your bathroom, showers, all that are included. And then you also have access to the pool, the treadmill, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of an all-in-one. And the Y is very conveniently located. It's just a couple blocks, maybe 4 or 5 blocks from the park where transition, swim start, all that is, and then same proximity to the finish line and the village. One thing that's a little different than Lake Placid is there are a couple towns. They're not right next door, but I would say probably 20 minutes away. There's a town to the north called Easton that has several hotels. That's actually where I've stayed in the past. So they have some availability and they're not quite as expensive. There's another town to the south that name escapes me, but kind of similar proximity. So if you don't get a room, don't want to pay those prices, actually for Cambridge, there are some options that are relatively nearby. Weather, I'll give a 6. It's kind of one of those, a little bit unpredictable. It's now mid-September in Maryland, so it's kind of when the cool weather is starting to come in. So if you're lucky, you may get a cool day. When I did the race, unfortunately, I did not. It turned out to be quite hot when it was actually predicted to be cool. And then there are some weather issues. So one year this race was actually rescheduled because a hurricane, late season hurricane, actually came through. And then this venue is at a very, very, very low elevation. In fact, a lot of these streets that are the run course and the bike course are actually at or below sea level, and you're basically right there on the water. So they actually can flood during high tide, and they have these things called super tides that happen just kind of spontaneously, and sometimes that happens on race day, and that can be certainly a challenge to deal with. Beginner friendly, 9. Other than those logistical issues, this is a great race for first timers. The course itself is great. And then for those same reasons, PR potential is a 9. This was my PR for a while. Great fast course, fast swim, fast bike, fast run all across the board. And in 2025, it offered 55 Kona slots. So assuming that will be comparable as we head to the 2026 race. The swim, I give an 8. The water temperature is borderline. It is generally kind of that same area, mid-70s, so you're never really quite sure whether it's going to be wetsuit legal or wetsuit optional, depending on which side of 76.1 the temperature falls. Visibility is pretty poor. So this is a river, and it's kind of like the one in Ottawa, where it looks a whole lot more like a bay than a river. It's called the Chop Tank River, but again, if you were to look at it, you would think it was a bay or something like that. It is not the river that I tend to think of, kind of more like Chattanooga, California. It is a large, shallow body of water, mud bottom. So generally that affects the visibility. So not great. It is brackish water. So it is a river. So there is some fresh water, but it also does feed out to the salt water. It is 2 loops, and it is notorious for jellyfish. This was really intimidating to me as I headed into this race. Growing up on the Texas Gulf Coast, we had some bad jellyfish. They were bad dudes. They will mess you up. They will hurt. Really bad stings. Some people have reactions to them, anaphylactic shock type things. So when I heard there was going to be a whole lot of jellyfish in the water, I was certainly intimidated. I didn't want to do the practice swim. I was nervous about getting in the water. Sure enough, I got on the water during the race, and there's kind of a little, kind of almost like a staging area that the race starts in, and you get out more into the actual area of where most of the swim is, and it's like the jellyfish were waiting on us. And yeah, they pretty much were there constantly throughout the race, but I got stung pretty early on, and I realized, hey, this isn't so bad. People leading into the race had told me it was kind of like a razor burn, sunburn, wind burn, kind of like that. And I would say that's a good description. So more of an annoyance as opposed to like a great deal of pain. You forget about it relatively quickly. And depending on the water temperature is going to depend on how prevalent the jellyfish are going to be. So I don't remember whether it's warm water, cold water that they follow. So depending on where that water is on race day, that is also going to be contingent upon how many jellyfish there are. There'll be some regardless, but some years they're really, really thick and some much more sparse. So In fact, the year that I did it, the temperature was, I want to say it was around 77. So it should have been wetsuit optional with all those implications of Kona slots and awards, all that. So over 76.1. But Ironman actually deferred to the USA Triathlon temperature, which I believe is 78. And so they actually made it wetsuit legal so that we would have more coverage and not be as exposed to the jellyfish. But that said, again, if I were to do this race, I would not be worried about the jellyfish. More of an annoyance than anything. Bike, I give it 10. I really enjoyed this course. It is pancake flat. Literally, there's like one little bridge that is like 2 feet raised, and that's probably the biggest source of elevation that you're going to get. Now, it is coastal, so obviously we can expect wind. It is also a 2-loop lollipop, so basically you'll ride from transition out to the majority of the course, where you'll do 2 loops and then head back into transition. Really neat. In that it again starts kind of in a neighborhood. You get out here, and a lot of this course is actually in a nature preserve. So some really pretty coastal scenery. So it's engaging. I like, again, the 2 loops, so where you can know where those aid stations are. But even some of these roads, if they may have standing water, depending on how those tides are. But even if not, you'll kind of see where those tides creep in, and you can kind of see the watermarks on the road from them being underwater for regular amounts of time. Run, I give it a 9. It is also flat. There's a couple little spots that you'll find yourself going a little bit uphill, but those are just kind of more fun than anything. I really enjoy the layout of this course. It is 3.5 loops. And fortunately, that half loop that you'll do 4 times is what I would consider the most fun. So you'll start in the park that's kind of centrally located. From the park, you'll actually head to their little downtown section. There's it's an out and back along one of the streets through downtown. Several restaurants along the way, and kind of the party is at a local brewery that is right at the U-turn of that. There's generally a announcer there, a DJ, and kind of a neat, unique thing. Instead of having cones set up to do the U-turn around, the brewery actually provides some kegs that they stack up. So you'll actually U-turn around the kegs there. You'll head back to the park, and then out through the neighborhood. Neighborhood is really a neat section as well. There are lots of residents that turn out. If it's a hot day, you'll probably get some hoses spraying water, that sort of thing. So again, I think it's a lot of personality in this course. Neat architecture. It's an older area. Part of the Underground Railroad went through this area. So a lot of history in the town, and a lot of personality. So you get to experience that 3.5 times. But again, you'll actually hit that downtown section 4th, and that's your last stretch. So it's relatively close to the finish. So as you start that 4th loop, you'll head downtown, enjoy all the folks that have been hanging out at the brewery all day, run around those kegs, head to the finish line, and have a great finish. Now, as mentioned before, those tides can flood the streets. So sometimes they have those super tides that will actually put parts of the run course as much as a foot underwater. Now, those generally come and go relatively quickly, but sometimes there are sections of the course that just high tide will actually flood those. So again, whether it's high tide and the street is underwater, or if it's low tide, you'll still see where those watermarks are. So in the days before, you can kind of see where those are. They don't really, the normal tides don't really affect your ability to run, but obviously they're having one of those super tides where the street is 6 to 12 inches underwater. That's going to affect your ability through there. Next up, definitely a crowd favorite, Ironman Chattanooga. It is on September 27th. Logistics, I give it a 7. There is Primarily because there's not a major airport nearby. So if you are traveling in, you're going to fly either to Nashville or to Atlanta. It's about a 2-hour drive from either of those. So I hate the Atlanta airport and I love Nashville. It's now my home. So I would recommend flying into Nashville and heading down to Chattanooga from there. Lots of hotel options, so that's not an issue. There are several literally across the street from the Ironman Village, transition, finish, all that. Lots of restaurants as well. So as far as that goes, great venue for that. Weather, I give a 6. Like some of these others, it's kind of unpredictable. There have been years where there's been rain all day, and it seems like if it's not raining, it's hot. So especially once you get out later in the day. Beginner friendly, I give it a 6, kind of for those same reasons. It's a combination of the weather and the course itself. And that also leads to a PR potential of 6. Not a slow course, but definitely not a fast course either. In 2025, there were 55 Kona slots available. Swim, I give it a 9. So water temperature is also borderline. Some years it's wetsuit legal, some years not. Visibility is fair. So this is a little bit cleaner river than, say, your Maryland or Ottawa. It is fresh water, so that is nice. It is a point-to-point, and again, in 2025, this was the fastest swim on the Ironman circuit, and that's worldwide. So I think the average time was something like 61 minutes. So that is a big head start for a lot of people. So hop in, ride the current. I forget what the number is, but there are all these kind of like urban legends of throwing in either a bag of chips or throwing in just a wetsuit, and it floats in like an hour 15, something like that. Now, I will say this is very contingent upon how much water that they are letting out of the dam. So just north of the start of the swim, there is a dam, and they regulate the flow of water through there. So sometimes it is very, very fast. Other times it's not as fast. So worst case scenario, there's not going to be much of a current. There'll obviously be some, which will obviously help, but it just kind of depends on the rain and all that, how much water they are letting through that dam. It is also subject to cancellation. There have been some years where the swim has been canceled if they are getting a lot of rain and there's actually too much of a current that it makes it dangerous. This swim has been canceled. I want to say it was maybe 2024 that both the 70.3 and the full were both canceled, but it does have a pretty good record of the swim going on, but unfortunately sometimes it does get canceled. Bike, I give a 6. Last year, actually 2024 was the first time they switched the bike course. It was kind of a late switch in 2024. Instead of going south down into Georgia, where the course had historically gone and where the 70.3 still goes, actually goes up to the north and spends a considerable amount of time on a highway. So pros and cons of that. It is deceptively hilly, and that was a lot of the feedback that the athletes had coming back from it. It's like, man, I did not expect that much. And in fact, there was a small change to the course this year that added on a little section at the end of the loop, and it was like one of the steepest climbs on the whole course. So thanks for that, Ironman. It is a 3-loop lollipop. So you'll ride out to that highway section, do 3 loops on it. So again, that hard section at the end, you're going to have to do that 3 times. It is known for being windy, so especially being a little more exposed out there on the highway. Run, I give a 7. It is known as a pretty hilly course, but there's a lot of flats in it as well. So it's relatively flat with some hilly sections, and there are even some punchy climbs throughout. It crosses over the river twice on each loop. It is a 2-loop course. So for better or for worse, kind of the fun parts are crossing over the river. Great support on the bridge, as you can see, and that's where a lot of the support hang out throughout the day. So it's a great spot for there, kind of get a boost of energy. The more difficult section of the run course is on the far side of the river, and this is late in the loop. So your last couple miles before starting that second loop, or last couple miles before headed to the finish line, are on the far side, opposite of where transition and finish line is. That is where you're going to see the most elevation change. So the more difficult section of the course is over there on the far side. And again, known for being hot and humid. This past year, I would say it was actually pretty nice. But I've been there several times where, especially out there on the run course, it's getting hot, it's getting humid. So you're going to want to make sure that, once again, you're nailing all of those 4 horsemen, controlling your core temperature, staying hydrated, staying up on your electrolytes, all those things. All right, Ironman World Championship in Kona, October 10th. And this one may be a bit controversial, so I may get some hate here, but I'm going to back it up. Logistics, I give it a 3. One, unless you live in Hawaii, it's going to be a long flight from anywhere, especially the continental U.S. or anywhere else around the world. It's a long flight to Hawaii, so not necessarily conducive to going and racing a big race. The city of Kona it's not a tiny village, but it's not real big. There are things like Walmart. There's a Target. Other than that, the grocery stores are pretty small. Again, there's other than pineapples and coffee, there's not much made there, so everything has to be imported. So it's in shorter supply, and you're going to pay for it as well. Obviously, a lot more expense in getting those items to those shelves, so you're going to pay for it. Weather, I give it a 2. It is really hot. It is really humid. It is really sunny. It is going to be tough conditions in addition to the wind that is notorious for the bike course. Beginner friendly, also give it a 2 for those same reasons. Now, not many beginners are racing in Kona, but it is possible that it could be maybe your second. Maybe you went out and qualified for Kona on your first race, or I actually, several years back, I coached 2 of the celebrity athletes that it actually was their first Ironman. So PR potential, also gave it a 2 for those same reasons. Now the swim, I give it a 10. This is actually the only section of the course I've done any significant amount on. I've not actually done this race myself, but I have been there, and the swim is amazing. Water temperature is in the low 80s, so it is always not wetsuit legal. The visibility is perfect. It is like swimming in a swimming pool. It is salt water, and so the buoyancy you lose from not being wetsuit legal, you get a little bit of that back. It is one out and back loop, so it's a big loop out there. And despite being not wetsuit legal, it was the 4th fastest swim in 2025. So right up there with these wetsuit legal swims that have currents and tides assisting. Now, this obviously has to do with the people that are participating. So vast majority of people have qualified, so they're right up there at the top of the performances in the swim, bike, and run. So it makes sense that they would have one of the faster swims out of all the events. The bike, I give a 4. Man, if this bike course were not part of the World Championship, it would be awful. It is rolling hills with some punchy climbs, traditionally very windy and totally exposed to the sun. It is one out and back loop, so basically you're seeing the same thing out and back. And you've probably heard the term lava fields in the coverage. That's exactly what this bike course is. It is a field of lava with a road cut through it. There is nothing out there in this lava other than some weeds that are like 6 inches tall. So there's absolutely nothing to break up the wind. There is absolutely nothing to provide shade or cover from the sun. There's nothing other than basically the lava, which is just going to reflect that heat. And you're not even necessarily close enough to the coast where you can see the beautiful water that you were swimming in before. So again, if this weren't the World Championship, if it didn't have the allure, this would be a horrible bike course. So that's why I gave it a 4. But take it or leave it. The run, I also gave a 4. The run is constant rolling hills, so it is a challenge so far as that goes. There is an out and back section along the shore, so that is the nicer section A lot of the time there, you can see some beautiful vistas of the water, of beaches, and that's where a lot of your support is as well. So there's a lot of condos and some hotels along that stretch. So great support there. There is some shade from the buildings and from the trees that are there along the shore. But that's, I believe you're there for about 12 miles. I think it's about 6 miles out and back. And then from there, you head up Palani Hill, which is a very steep climb. And then you're back on the Queen K Highway. So now you're back into kind of not a whole lot. It's a road that is constantly undulating and not a whole lot to look at. And again, not much to break up the wind, the heat, the humidity. You head down to the Energy Lab, which is a notorious section of the course where it's basically a solar farm. So that tells you what you're experiencing there. A lot of sun in that area, so much so that they put solar panels there to harvest it. So a tough section. Hot, humid, and sunny, and then even after dark, it stays hot, stays sunny. Not so much stays hot and humid, not so much sunny, obviously, after sunset. Now, that said, the last mile and the finish line, it gets a 10. If I were to go higher than 10, obviously it would score higher than 10, but that always kind of annoys me when people exceed their own scale. So it is a no-brainer for the 10. You finish that section on the Queen K. The last section of the Queen K starts to go downhill, and then you're back down Palani. So some of these more popular things you probably heard of. So now what was that steep climb out? There's a steep descent back. You make a left, then a right, and then one more right onto Alihi, which that is really where the magic starts. So once you make that right turn onto Alihi, at that point you're about a half mile or so from the finish line, and that's really where it becomes magical, and that finish line obviously is second to none. On to Ironman California, October 18th. Logistics, I give this one a 10. Sacramento Airport is right there, easily accessible. Lots of hotels right in the area. This is one of those urban races where Transition Swim Start is all kind of right downtown, so lots of hotels in the area. This is the capital of California, so plenty of places to stay. Weather, I give an 8 with an asterisk. So as we get into mid-October, Northern California, generally it's pretty cool, so not necessarily one of the hot races. So really nice weather for this race, except for the very first year when it was canceled on race morning because there was a bomb cyclone coming in. So outside of bomb cyclones, I will say the weather generally is quite nice. Beginner friendly, I give it a 10. There are a lot of beginners out there. It is a great race for first timers. PR potential, also 10 for those same reasons. And in 2025, there were 55 Kona slots available. Swim, I give it 10. Water temperature is in the mid-60s, so it's going to be wetsuit legal. Visibility is fair, so not crystal clear, but not bad. It is fresh water, and it starts off in the American River, which is fast, and then it feeds into the Sacramento, which is faster. So you start in a fast river, and then you merge into an even faster river. So for that reason, it was the second fastest swim in 2025. Like I said, I think Chattanooga was like 61 minutes, and this one was just behind it at like 62 minutes. So whereas your average Ironman swim is probably more like an hour 30, hour 40, something like that, significantly faster in these two events. Bike, I also give it 10. It is totally flat. It can get windy. In fact, there have been some years where the wind was quite high. It is a 2-loop out and back. It is north-south, so that same rule of reciprocation applies here. So if you are headed out and you're into a headwind, the good news is when you turn around, it's going to be a tailwind or vice versa. It goes through some neat farmland, some vineyards, and there are sections of the course that do have some shade. So a nice course. Run, I also give it 10. It is completely flat. It runs through several different areas, which is kind of neat. Again, it's in the urban area of the capital. It is a 2-loop course and has an amazing, iconic capital finish, kind of like Wisconsin. And I will say this is probably the coolest post-race that I've been part of. The athlete food comes in food trucks. So you're not just getting, cold pizza or whatever. It's actually some really cool stuff they have, and a great energy vibe down there afterwards. Unfortunately, it was the fourth slowest run. So we went from the fastest swim to the slowest run. But take your pick there on which you'll have. And finally, we head to my favorite, Ironman Florida. It is on November 7th. Logistics, I give this one a 10. There is an airport that is maybe 15 minutes away from the race. Super easy to get in and out of, and kind of like some of the others. As you are going from the airport to Panama City Beach, you'll actually get to see a section of the bike course. Weather, I give an 8. It is a beautiful time of year. Part of the reason I love it so much, it is generally pretty cool. There have been years where it is downright cold. A couple times it's been like in the 40s, maybe even 30s on race morning. But what I always say is like a cold morning sets up a nice afternoon. So if it's warm in the morning, that means it's going to be hot in the afternoon. So oftentimes those cool to cold starts set up really nice bikes and fantastic conditions for the run. So that's generally what you get. Beginner friendly, I give this one a 10. It was my first, and there are lots of others that have done their first there at Ironman Florida, just for all those reasons. Logistics, PR potential, 10. It's generally a flat swim, flat bike, flat run, good weather. So all those things add up to a lot of PR potential. And last year, it also had 55 Kona slots. Swim, I give a 9, and I really wish I could give it a 10. It is a fantastic swim, unless it's not. Water temperature does vary, but generally it's in the mid to upper 60s. There have been years where it has gone up into the mid 70s and actually not been wetsuit legal. So it can be one of those, I wouldn't usually say race day decisions, but you'll know generally a couple days out whether is it in the 60s or is it in the 70s. So you're dealing here with the Gulf of Mexico, so it's not like some of these rivers or lakes where you'll get fluctuations of several degrees in a day or two. The water temperature here is going to be much slower to change. Visibility is crystal clear. It is absolutely gorgeous water. This is called the Emerald Coast because the water is so gorgeous. So that's definitely a part of the allure for me. Obviously, it's saltwater, so you kind of get that double pro of saltwater and the wetsuit if it's wetsuit legal. It is a 2-loop course with a beach break, which I kind of like. So you go out, you do your 1.2 mile swim, and then you have a little bit of a break as you come onto the beach, run under the pier, and head back out into the water. Now, I would have given this a 10. On a normal year, good year, I would give it a 10. However, in I believe it was 2021, I did this race, and it was my worst swim ever. There was actually a outgoing current that we weren't even aware of when we started the race. It wasn't until we made that first right-hand turn and then just stopped moving. So that was very difficult to overcome, and physically, mentally, it was hard, and it was really hard to go out on that second loop and know that I was going to have to do all of that over. So other than that, I will give it, I wish I could give it a 10, but because of that, I'll give it a 9. Bike is also a 10. I'll say for most people, you're going to consider it flat. Now, the first time I went out there, I was a little bit surprised because of where I was training is literally pancake flat. I could go ride 100 miles and get 200 feet of elevation. So there are a couple sections that are a little bit undulating, maybe some false flats, but as a rule, pretty flat. Biggest obstacle here is the wind. Obviously, we're on the coast, so we can expect wind generally out of the south, but sometimes this time of year it blows out of the north. So that northern wind is a little bit advantageous in that it keeps the water calm, keeps the waves relatively flat, and then there is a really long stretch from the furthest north point back. I want to say that is maybe it's maybe 80 to 100, so really late in the ride. If you can get 20 miles of tailwind from 80 to 100, that is a fantastic win for you. It is one long loop, so that's something I struggle with a little bit. I like those loops. I can tell I'm making progress, but still, it is a fantastic bike course. The run, I give a 6. I will say the biggest weakness of Ironman Florida is the run. Now, the original course that I did the first 2 times, I loved it. It was fantastic. This one, I don't love it as much. It is completely flat. And it is all along the beach, but you're not necessarily always seeing the beach, so it's not necessarily as scenic. It is 2 loops. Basically, you run out 6.5 miles, you turn around, and do that all over again. So it's 4 sections of the same. And the course does get quite crowded, and that's probably my biggest complaint is basically you have the shoulder to run, and if it were one way, that'd be fine, but it's actually 2-way traffic, and especially later in the evening where most people are out there on the run course, whether they're on their first loop or second loop, it gets really crowded out there. So it's basically impossible to even run side by side with just 2 people. So it does get a bit crowded, and so especially on that second loop, if you're mile 24, 25, and you're having to run around people, that sucks. It's all you want to do is run as little as you can, as straight as you can, and head to that finish line. But once you get there, you have the iconic Pier Park finish. It's a great finish line, and like them all, they are always spectacular and worth celebrating. So those are our 2026 North American Ironman courses. And again, if you are taking on one of these races, racing Ironman or a 70.3, I work exclusively with long course athletes. That is my specialty. It's where my experience is, my education all really revolves around long course racing. And I've done all I can to make it as affordable for as many people as possible. So my full service is $149, and you get a whole lot of stuff for that. This level of service I used to charge $350 a month for, and I didn't scale back anything, but I realized that a lot of people can't afford that. So I want to make it as affordable as possible for as many people as possible. So now I'm offering that same level of service with everything included for just $149 a month. If you're not interested in that one-on-one coaching, but you're still looking for a individualized, customized plan and a great community to engage with and support, we have that option of the community at just $39 per month as well. So check out tribetraining.net for more information on that, or feel free to reach out. So that's what we got for today. Hope you got some good information on Ironman racing, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Are you a long course triathlete juggling career, family, and social life, but still chasing performance? Still showing up early, grinding out sessions, and chasing PRs? Then this is your podcast. I'm John Mayfield, triathlon coach and athlete, and I've coached hundreds of athletes just like you. Busy professionals with big goals and limited time, and no interest in wasting either. Welcome to Tribe Triathlon, your go-to show for everything you need to train smarter, race faster, and fall even more in love with the sport of triathlon. Whether you're self-coached and looking for trusted information, or you've got a coach and just looking for an edge, this show is for you. Every Tuesday, I'll bring you clear, actionable items to help you train more efficiently and race better, to get more out of every training block, every recovery session, and every race. From swimming, cycling, and running to recovery hacks, mental prep to race day execution, you'll leave every episode with something you can use immediately in your next training session or race. There are a lot of triathlon podcasts out there, but this one, it's built on real coaching experience, real results, and a real passion for helping athletes like you reach your potential. So if you're ready to train smarter, race faster, and love the process, hit subscribe, and I'll see you every Tuesday.